Proverbs 4. Hear, ye children, the instruction of a father, and attend to no understanding. For I give you good doctrine. Forsake ye not my law. For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also, and said unto me, Let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandments, and live. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honour, when thou dost embrace her. She shall give to thine head an ornament of grace. A crown of glory shall she deliver to thee. Hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of thy life shall be many. I have taught thee in the way of wisdom, I have led thee in right paths. When thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened, and when thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. Take fast hold of instruction, let her not go, keep her, for she is thy life. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness, and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the just is as the shining light, that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The way of the wicked is as darkness, they know not at what they stumble. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings, let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil.
Good evening. It is Friday, September 12th, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and welcome to the Watchman News. So we'll get things started off with suspicious observers, as usual, and see what he has to say. As you know, we've got a CME that's impacted. I think it's pretty well done impacting for the day. We'll see. And then we've got another CME that I believe will be impacting sometime tonight, tomorrow-ish, something in there. It's hard to tell because there's like a 5 to 7 hour difference, or there can be, when they're going to attack, or not attack, but you know, when they're going to hit the earth from when they're forecasted. I don't know where attack came from. Bear with me. Enjoy Suspicious Observers as usual. The link's in the About tab.
Good morning, folks. Lots to cover today. We begin with calm near-Earth space. Calm magnetosphere last time we talked, then the CME impacts began. The first shockwave arrived at 2300 UTC last night, or about 7 p.m. Eastern Time, ramping the solar wind density, speed, and plasma temperature above ambient quiet levels. Earth's shield did its primary job and kept too much plasma from penetrating into the system, but it took a beating doing so. And indeed, Earth was in a multi-hour geomagnetic storm at the lowest level. Reverberations may continue today, in addition to the larger shockwave due any minute now, should ramp the speed even higher in yellow and produce larger geomagnetic storms. Earth is still in a radiation storm at the poles, still just at level 1. Meanwhile, we took 2 small M flares yesterday in a waning X-ray trend. They came from the limb top left with a corresponding pop down south departing. The sunspots are noticeably weaker. The X-flare maker in the north is highly morphed from its primary eruption. Iris captured the surge, sending the penumbral surroundings into the umbral core of the sunspot here. Absolutely beautiful. Meanwhile, down south the deltas are decaying, and we're getting our first look at the M-flare makers from yesterday on the north as well. Great links today. If you didn't see this volcano erupt in PNG, it's worth a look with sound so you can hear the boom. I also recommend NASA's latest on how they map the wind of hurricanes and tropical storms. We've got a new map for Rosetta's comet as they zero in on a landing site. The August State of the Climate Report is issued for the United States with another solid mix of both above and below average temperatures. It appears this was indeed a wetter month than we've seen as well. But the top 2 links you'll find below are our own. The first is at the blog run by David Hyde, featuring a new article written by one of the most prolific contributors to the comment section, Hook Echo. His real name and a darn good space weather earthquake article can be found there. Speaking of David Hyde, he and I have our second article published in New Dawn magazine this month, this one on the space weather influence over human health and behavior. This publication has been very good to our community. So we're in the West Pacific looking for tropical development and Earth spot quakes. The system is strengthening and about to cross the Philippines. Regional uptick in seismicity on its heels. In the Atlantic, the named storm is still way out to sea, but the worrisome Gulf threat still looms and is just a touch north of an above-average rumble in the Dominican Republic as well. Here's the scene in the West Pacific. 2 systems of note, about the usual here in terms of storm tracks. Let's quickly eye the convergence line in the United States, shifting east and south a bit. Its flood warnings are actually once more due to moisture shifting up from the Pacific tropical storms, and NOAA once again missing the yellow severe alert along the line to the northeast. I'd again recommend more caution in those areas. Lows in Europe, fairly easy to notice. The drive on the wind and cloud formations for the ones still out in the Atlantic are absolutely phenomenal. The storm zones there tonight are a direct result of the 2 systems. Convergence line down under is actually east with the Kiwis. You'll get the brunt of it this evening. Bigger CME impact expected soon. Check out those links below the video. Shots of our star to close at 6:15 a.m. Eastern Time, 3:15 a.m. local. That's the news. Be safe, everyone.
Alrighty, thanks to suspicious observers. I probably sound like a robot about now. If you give it a little bit of moment, my computer will straighten out. It does this sometimes. Usually it just totally crashes. This time it's not going to do that. So just hang in there. The audio will get better. I'll try and fix that real quick. Okay, well, it will straighten up. Let me reboot this. Okay, that fixed it. I'm sorry about that. Must have been a software error. I thought it was Windows. You know, Windows never makes a mistake, right? All right, I do have a rather long video about the economy that I'm going to play. I'm not doing this to news. Okay, maybe I am. But anyway, it's about bank bail-ins, and I thought it was important that that this information get out. This is a video that Joe had put out. Oh, I guess I don't remember. It'll tell you on the video, but it's like 30 minutes long, and I thought it was rather important that this get out. And people need to understand what's going to happen to the economic system in this country and how it's going to happen and what to look out for, when to expect it. And so the link's down in the About tab, but I will go ahead and play that so you can see it here. And then I will be back with some news. I've got some stuff covering from Obama and ISIS, and I even got a story about a woman trying to eat somebody's face. So that ought to be fun. So right now, enjoy some realist news, and I'll be back with some more stuff afterwards.
So are bail-ins coming to the, but a bank near you in America? Federal Reserve Vice Chairman, one of the Fed Vice Chairmans, I should say, warns your bank may seize your money to recapitalize itself if it needs to. And let me tell you, they're going to need to. They needed it in 2008. They gave them massive hundreds of billions of dollars to start with, which have now turned into trillions of dollars, and it isn't enough. At the height of the financial crisis in 2008, the U.S. government forced some of the country's largest banks to take a bailout fund amounting to billions of dollars in order to keep them from going bankrupt. It was a move designed to not only keep too big to fail financial institutions afloat, but one that would inspire confidence and keep American consumers spending. As a result, the last several years have seen stock market reach record highs, with Americans continuing to rack up personal debt for real estate, vehicles, education, and consumer goods as if the financial crisis never happened. But the purported recovery may not be everything that government officials and influential financial leaders have made it out to be. Recent comments delivered by none other than Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Stanley Fischer suggest that not only are global and domestic economies still struggling, but the U.S. government itself is preparing financial contingency plans in anticipation of another widespread economic event. And just so we're on the same page here, The FDIC insurance, member FDIC. Oh, well, use that bank. Your money's insured. It's only insured up to a certain amount, right? What is it? It used to be $100,000. Now I think it's $250,000 per account, per whatever, right? But when we did the bailout, they damn near gave almost $1 trillion right off the bat. And again, later on, we fed more and helped build out other banks and whatnot across the seas, you name it. FDIC insurance, in the absolute worst catastrophic event, financially speaking, banks after bank after bank, let's say, just closed the doors, bankrupt, and they had to pay out all this insurance, the FDIC. They only have $50 or $60 billion in what they call the DIF fund. $50 billion is usually what I used to see. It may be lower than that now. I don't even know where it's at the moment. That's all they've got. $50 billion to backstop everything. Okay, but we had to give them $850 billion to start with in 2008, which again has been blown through to try to paper over this whole thing, and it hasn't changed anything. We've still been continually adding massive amounts of debt. $9 trillion, not even 8 years later, 6 years later, it was already over 16, 17 trillion. So, in an emergency, by law, they say, the FDIC, if it runs out of its money, $50 billion, absolutely, they'll run out of that, can go to the Treasury and get $500 billion, half a trillion, in emergency lending to the FDIC to help it, again, put out these fires, so to speak, of failing banks. But that's it. No more. That's what the law states. That's all they're going to get. Once again, $500 billion from the emergency fund, $50 billion from its own fund, the DIF fund. That's $550 billion. Yet in 2008, we had to come up with $850 billion right off the bat. See a problem here? If it happens again, and now that these same banks have been spending and investing in the same crap that they've been doing the whole time, the derivatives haven't gotten smaller, they've gotten larger, the crash is coming. So, thinking like a politician, that $500 billion is gone, the $50 billion DIF fund, that's absolutely gone. How else can we help these banks? Bail-ins. Let's take the people's money. According to Fisher, the government won't be bailing out financial institutions in need of cash. Instead, failing banks will turn directly to their unsecured creditors, which is you and your bank account, when they need money. And within this context, that means you. The recession that began in the United States in December 2007 ended in June 2009. But the Great Recession is a near worldwide phenomenon, with the consequences of which many advanced economies continue to struggle. Its depth and breadth appear to have changed the economic environment in many ways and to have left the road ahead unclear. Work on the use of the resolution mechanism set out in the Dodd-Frank Act, based on the principle of a single point of entry through less advanced than the work on capital and liquidity ratios, holds the promise of making it possible to resolve banks in difficulty at no direct cost to the taxpayer. As part of this approach, the United States is preparing a proposal to require systemically important banks to issue bail-inable long-term debt that will enable insolvent banks to recapitalize themselves in resolution without calling on government funding. This cushion is known as a gone concern buffer, also known as a bail or bail-in. Though Fisher doesn't detail exactly what bail-inable long-term debt actually is, one only needs to look at Europe, namely Cyprus, to understand what he means. When the Cypriot banking system collapsed because of the inability to service its debt in 2013, the government forced bank depositors to cover the debts, bail-ins. This led to banks forcibly seizing funds from depositor accounts in order to pay their debts, when basically saying, we'll pay you back later. We're going to take your money, we'll pay it back to you later. So if you didn't went into the bank and said, well, I need all my account, I don't like all my money in my account, I don't like what I'm seeing here. No, your money's gone. You are a forceful debtor or creditor now. According to the Vice Fed Chairman, the U.S. government is now proposing similar rules, following in the footsteps of Europe and Japan, who have already prepared such measures. The bottom line is that financial, economic, and monetary policymakers in the U.S. are fearful that another crisis, perhaps even worse than the one in 2008, the derivatives are going to blow up. That's pretty much worse than 2008. Is going to be playing out in the very near future. Otherwise, why would they find it necessary to take the drastic step of forcing bank depositors to act as a backstop for their financial institutions? But this time around, it won't be the government that bails them out directly. Instead, if you have an account with the bank, you are all of a sudden what they call an unsecured creditor for that institution. Just like the people of Cyprus were for their banks. And when that bank inevitably comes under pressure because of the inability to cover their debts, and that's going to happen, it is you who will become the bailout mechanism. It's not hard to imagine how this scenario might play out the next time around. At the first hint of another crisis, we're going to see panic that will make 2008 look like a picnic. First, stock markets will sell off en masse as a scramble to not be the last one out takes hold of investor or investors, or in other words, the last one out of the market, layman's terms. This in turn will lead to liquidity problems of major financial institutions across the country. As banks run out of cash to cover the tens of billions of dollars they need to service their existing debt, they will turn to the new policies described by Vice Fed Chairman Stanley Fischer. What this means is that one morning you could wake up and see 10 or 20% of your funds transferred out of your bank account in exchange for long-term debt, such as a bond, with the promise that the bank will pay it back to you at a later date. And when the vice chairman said long-term debt, that means long-term bond. So let's say, and I love this word, I haven't used it in such a long time, you were doing the right thing and you really didn't get into too much debt, you paid all your bills on time, you've got a triple 100 million AAA% credit score, you just got a mortgage, right? Most of your debt pretty much is paid off. Living the dream, even though it was hard, you struggled. Not only on top of that, because the market did so well, maybe you were smart enough and got your money out of the market, set it in your bank account. You thought, man, I am ahead of the game. And by anyone else's measures, you sound like you are on point. Now you got a nice chunk of change in your bank account because, again, you're seeing things that may bother you, but you were doing the right thing the whole time. Got this all figured out. You're going to take that stock market money out before it crashes, put it in your bank account. Where else are you going to put it? You're going to wait till the dust settles, right? Where maybe you got 100, 200 grand in the bank account. It's covered under FDIC. And then all of a sudden, as they talk about, you wake up one day, and imagine if you find that the FDIC insurance never even had to kick in. That the banks, somehow by law, whatever, new rule of the Federal Reserve, you can just do this. They don't need a law, just a slight changing in the banking rules from the Federal Reserve itself, let's say. You can now do bail-ins. They realize we don't have to even tap the FDIC insurance fund because we're not going out of business. We're not failing. We're not closing the doors. We're keeping them open because we're going to do the depositor bail-in. We don't even have to touch the DIF fund, the FDIC insurance. So we'll still hold that little placard, that little sticker on all the windows of the bank. member FDIC to make you feel secure. You wake up, your $100,000, $200,000 just been cut down by 25%, let's say. And let's say you had 200 grand in the bank. You were the smart one. You took out the money at the stock market. You thought you had this one nailed. All your friends and family, man, my brother, my whoever, man, they're so smart. He got out of the stock market just in time. He just left his money in the bank. He kept it under the threshold of the FDIC insurance. So, man, he's smart. And you wake up one day and 25% of it's gone. Maybe more. There's no telling. I don't know what the rule limit is. Now you're 200,000. It's down to 150. Let's just say. And you're pissed off. Where the hell did $50,000 of my money go that I had sitting in my bank account? Well, sir, banking regulations allow us, the bank, so we don't have to close our doors, to do what they call a bail-in, or as the Fed do, a long-term debt structure, or give it the fancy name, so that people, the dummies, the laymen's, don't understand. What does that mean? They don't even care to ask. It just sounds fancy, so I'll just accept it. Long-term debt structure or whatever, right? That means you now have been issued we will pay you back at interest. We will pay you the interest, by the way. Of course, the crap interest you've always been getting in your account, while the banks, when they had it good and got all the bail-in money from $1 trillion bailout in 2000, not bail-in, bailout from 2008, they weren't giving you a loan when you needed a new car or house or whatever it was. They weren't giving you that at, half of 1% or 0.01 or 2%, a tenth of 1%, like that's supposed to be some kind of good return. Oh no, you sorry sack of garbage. You were getting that house loan for 4, 5, or 6%. That car payment or car one may have been a little higher, or may have been the same, 4, 5, or 6%. And you still thought, man, that's not bad. That's not a bad interest rate. Got a car for 5%, my house is still 5%. Man, they're good. And now all of a sudden they've taken by force your money as a bail-in and say, here's a what they call long-term bond. We will pay this back to you at interest. And they're going to give you this 0.0000001% interest payment every month, which amounts to nothing on your $50,000. You're getting pennies back monthly because, like they said, hey, we're good for it. We're paying you back. But you sorry sack of garbage, don't get to tell the bank, well, wait a minute. When I go to you, you tell me what interest rate I've got, and I've got the AAA double whammy credit score. I'm supposed to get the best deal, and I still don't feel like I got the best deal. I'd like a 0.0 something percent interest rate. No, I can only get a 4, 5, or 6%. Well, gosh. And then all of a sudden, they've bailed you in, taking your money, and at the same time, telling you this is the interest you're going to get back, which is 0.0 nothing. That's what you get back, sir. Wait a minute. Whoa. Now you're the creditor. I'm the creditor, and you, the bank, are the debtor, correct? We've swapped roles. Yeah, that's technically speaking. Yeah, you're right. Well, you see, I've got my own credit score system. Just made it up. And because you needed to bail in, tells me you can't make your payments. And as soon as you struggle to make your payments, your credit score gets nailed. So Bank of America, JP Morgan, the rest of you, I'm sorry to tell you, but the interest rate has just gone up for you guys because you don't have that AAA credit rating anymore. In my book, and matter of fact, everyone else you bailed in's book. And then they say to you, you silly peasant, you goyim. We're telling you what we're paying you, and not only are you getting almost nothing back as interest while we took your money in the middle of the night while you were sleeping, we don't have to pay you back in full on this bond note, etc., until 15, 20 years, whatever it is, years from now, long term. They said long term. So the minimum's probably going to be like 10 years. So we're not paying you back in full We're only going to pay you the interest payments to start with, which amounts to pennies. You make a few dollars every month. It makes you put that on your IRS tax return. They're going to be cracking it up. They're going to be dying. And when you say, no, I would rather have my money now. I don't want to sit and make pennies every month. I could use the $50,000 here shortly. I'm about to buy a new house, about to do this, about to buy whatever. Maybe you're going to invest in something else, whatever. Sorry, your money's gone. You can't invest it. But we got this other piece of paper that says whatever long-term bond. And in 20 years from now, you'll get your 50 grand back. So let me ask you a question. This is pretty much a no-brainer for me. If banks do these bail-ins, and in that example I just gave you, 200 grand you had in your account, you're living large, you're feeling good, did everything right, doing the right thing all my life? You silly peasant. Anyways, your 200,000 just turned into 150. Wake up the next day, it's gone. Here's a bond in exchange, we'll pay you off in 20 years. Now you are absolutely flipping mad, furious. You're ready to kill somebody. That's how mad you are. But, doing the right thing, I will let Jesus deal with that person, to which nothing's going to happen. And you just accepted it. Lost my 50 grand. Oh, they're going to pay it back. They'll pay it back. So I will get it eventually. I'm not too awfully mad, but I'm in. But I got 150,000 in the bank. What if they need to do it again? What if, because they needed it to begin with, we were told this recession already ended, everything was good, everything was fine. Now all of a sudden I'm hearing this crap on the news about these derivatives things, and now that I've done this little research of what the hell derivative is, I can't even believe these things were ever allowed. So if they were allowed, and we're living in a, fun house of a, banana republic type of system, I don't trust my $150,000 in the bank. Even though they took the 50, man, I think I'm going to go around there and take that 150 out immediately. Take the cash out, and then maybe put back a few $1,000s in some other bank. Well, then again, other banks did it too, so I'll just pick one of them, whatever. I got to have a bank to deal with my daily stuff. So I'll take the 150,000 out. I'm just going to put it in a safe. I'll do whatever I got to do. I'm not leaving it in the bank. All of a sudden, that bank is in trouble again, isn't it? Because you've just taken out $150,000 of your money that was critical for that bank to use to give out other people lending, loans to other people, because that's what banks do with all of our money, is lend it out at interest so that they make the interest payments back as their profit to keep them going, and of course, really keep them going. They make a huge profit. But for some reason, profit's not going to be enough. They're not going to be able to keep the doors open, because if they could, the 2008 bailout would have never happened. Correct? Correct. Therefore, the next one, when the derivatives crisis blows up in everyone's face, is going to be 10 times worse. And that's when the whole bail-in thing they're talking about is probably going to kick in. So now you've taken your money out of the bank, because the bank just stole your money, 50,000 of it in this example. So you're not feeling too comfortable. You basically want to get the rest of whatever is yours out of there instantly. And I will say this, don't be surprised if when this rule kicks in, there's a little, what I used to call subsection A, that states you can only take X amount of dollars out of the bank at a given time, and that amount of money is going to be so low, it's going to take you forever to get your $150,000 out of the bank anyways. So now you're left with being a prisoner of this system, which then does what? Causes you to become so mad, so upset, so pissed off, you are ready to overthrow the government at that point. And then it's going to start happening. You're going to see the rioting and the crap that's going to go on that leads directly to that. You are not going to take people's hard-earned money. Especially when they said, I've sat here and dealt with this, I've struggled to do this, the government told me I had to do this because our fragile economy, so I did what they said. And now they've allowed these same banks to steal my money. And then in doing so, right, they're going to educate themselves in a hurry. Because when it happens to you, all of a sudden you want answers and you want them now. And when you turn on CNN and turn on Fox News, you're not getting any kind of answer at all. Matter of fact, they're avoiding the question. So let me go to the internet and do a little research. And then you're going to find out about all these paper products and derivatives, and you're going to hear about how Jamie Dimon got his bonuses and made $20 million and it turned into $25 million a year, and how they settled with the Security and Exchange Commission, which is, you know, Wall Street regulator. They've settled with the commodities industry, the CFTC regulators. They've settled here, settled there, settled everywhere for fraud, financial crimes, fraud, financial crimes, financial crimes, fraud. And you're going to say, and now I have to bail out this particular bank. I have a bank robber in front of me, and now my government's telling me I've also got to support that bank robber and keep paying him while he robbed all those banks, blew through all the money, but because he's too big to fail, too big to jail, he gets out of jail, stays out of jail, and now they're taking my money out of my account. While I'm also reading, while these bail-ins are occurring, that son of a bitch just made the most record profit in for his own personal life. The last quarter was the best he ever saw, got a bonus. He only got that bonus because he stole my money, right? You're going to see people flip out. They will flip out. While I'm trying to tell you how to avoid it so you don't have to be part of that. You just keep stacking that precious metal, gold and silver. I'm, again, as I always say, the silver guy. And yeah, they're putting pressure like you can't believe, right? Last few days even. Just unbelievable pressure on gold and silver. Why? Because they know something's about to happen soon. That's going to cause gold and silver to go up. So they can't have it up to start with and then have it go up more when whatever event or whatever thing comes out and makes it go higher. They got to keep it down. Not only do they keep it down, they want to take it a little further than normal, like where the technical lines, technical charts say if it hits 1300 gold, and then we're look at the next leg. Get that crap out of my face. They control the price. They set it wherever they want. But they know the rest of the world still, at least most people, still believe in this true free open market stuff, and we're going to look at the technical analysis, and if it's over 1300, then that means we're definitely going higher in gold. So they're going to keep it under 1300 and then give it a little extra, 1280, 1290, no, 1270. Put it down to 1270. And then of course it starts going back up, and they got to fight again and push it down. This is all a fire sale to you. 19-something dollar silver, $20 silver, $21 silver. It all has a big sign that says "Buy me now." And you just sit on it and wait. Speaking of which, just since we're in the morning, just curious here what we're looking at. Gold is 1268. Ooh. They want you to think that the party's over, even though you may say they may understand. People are realizing, man, this has to be rigged. This really is rigged. And you know, I thought it wasn't. It is rigged. They don't care anymore. They don't care that you think or even know it's rigged. They want you to probably think that now because, man, if it's rigged, that means the government and the bankers or whatever, they're doing it. Man, that means that they really can put the price wherever they want. And since they keep trying to push it lower and lower and lower, I'm tired of playing that game. I'm getting my money out of gold and silver. I'm going to go invest. Well, the market keeps going up. So if they're rigging that too, well, I don't care. The market's going up. I'll put my money there. I'm tired of playing with gold and silver. And then they're gonna be in the background saying, exactly, because we need you to put all your money back into that market, so that when the club members give ourselves the go signal and we destroy the market, we will already have taken all those short positions and gotten our money out of the market, making unbelievable profits hand over fist, because we chose to short the market at precisely the right time. And we can't just short it, because for every short position there has to be a long position. So we need all the sheep to be very happy and back in that market, even if we have to force them out of other commodities and other stocks to go into the stock market, you know, as in the S&P and the Dow, so that they can then take their positions and all your money is gone. You're screaming for the exits, and the price just keeps dropping and dropping. No buyers, no buyers, no buyers, no buyers. Oh my God, no buyers. No. Finally got a buyer. How much did you lose? 60%. 60%. So then if it was me, I'd ask the government, hey, government, where's the President's Group on Financial Matters, also known as the Plunge Protection Team? They've been active this whole time, keeping the market steady, rising. How come they're not allowed to actively participate in the market all of a sudden? Why was my retirement just destroyed 50, 60%? What kind of answer are they going to give you? Well, they can only move it, they only participate a little bit. Not when there's a massive waterfall exodus. They'll tell you something. If your money is not in their system, you cannot be affected by these things when they happen. Which is why physical assets like gold and silver are the best thing you could possibly have. Don't look at the stupid price at the moment. It doesn't matter. Look at it and smile. Oh my God, I can get more for cheaper. And go and do it. Because those days are counting down. They're getting less and less. And sooner or later, it's getting down to 0 time. When, oh my God, the price is going to explode when the rest of this crap happens. Because that person who just lost 50, 60% of their money in the market and got it out at the last minute, oh my God, I can't believe I lost it. Guess where it's going to be going? Oh my God, Russia and China just announced today they've got the new exchanges online. They're no longer looking at the COMEX American system for setting the price. They're going to set themselves to talk about market manipulation. Oh man, I better get into gold and silver now. Right now. I'm taking some of that 50, 60% I lost. I'm taking some of that and dumping it into the silver and gold market. Everyone else is doing it. Seems to be working. And then bingo. Now there's too many people in this little tiny market. Not enough gold and silver around. Do you realize that the Shanghai exchange recently, this precious metals exchange, the silver explicitly, had a mass, not sell-off, I should say buy-off of silver. So they sold off, someone bought, whatever. 25% inventory of this exchange. One I spoke to you about a couple weeks ago. Well, so there's lots of action, and in a matter of days, day or two, 10% was just wiped off the exchange, whatever it was at the time. Well, now you can wipe that out, and there's a new record. There's 25% of the metals were just taken off of that exchange, silver, the silver specifically, and they were already dangerously low. And I said, my buddy emailed me, whatever, talked about it, showed me how in 3 months from now, that exchange could be like at 0 point. We need a lot more silver. Where are we going to get it from? Because if they could get it, why wouldn't they get it now? Why is the exchange running low? Maybe they're going to go to the COMEX, place a huge order, demand delivery, give us the silver. What's that? Delays? What's that? You don't have it. Oh, you're not going to use that word. Just delays. Okay, well, we'll play that game. We'll take the delay. We'll wait. Go ahead and give it to us. Well, there's another delay. Right? You hear that word come out again? Delays, and I can't make delivery on time. People are going to recognize these people are in some kind of desperate measures right now to try to maintain price control. I don't care. I'm going all in on gold and silver. Done. Something for y'all to think about. Bail-ins coming to a country near you. How do you protect against that? Duh. I'll use thousands of years of history. It's called gold and silver. Take care.
And that was Realist News. Oops, let me get my audio switched back over here. There we go. For some reason, I like hearing myself speak. Okay, on to the first news story that I have for you. Fun. This is always good news, huh? Massive radiation plume from Fukushima heading toward the American West Coast, according to a scientific report. According to a scientific modeling system used by the European Union, a radioactive ocean plume released by the 2011 Fukushima nuclear disaster is likely to remain a massive clump of radioactivity until it slams into the west coast of the United States in late 2017. We'll get back to that. On March 11, 2011, a massive earthquake and tsunami struck Japan, knocking out power and cooling capability to the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plants. They need to give these places English names just for me. Within 3 days, multiple meltdowns and reactor explosions had taken place. By March 25th, massive amounts of radioactive material were observed leaking directly into the Pacific Ocean. In 2013, the Nansen Environmental and Remote Sensing Center in Norway used computer models to project the movement and dispersion of this radioactive plume. Although the results of the study have been cited in official Chinese government documents, they have not been widely publicized. The reason I wanted to cover this is we all know, and if you've been paying attention to Radioactive Reality, it's done by Nibiru Magic 2012, or if you listen to Dana by chance, Beautiful Girl by Dana, you know that we were hit with the initial plume from the initial release within days after it happened. So do not buy that we're all good until 2017 and then it's just going to rain radiation on us. It's been raining radiation on us for the last 3 years. So always be wary when you see news reports or anything like that that talks about sometime into the future, like it hasn't been happening already. Same as all the radiation washing up on the West Coast, same as all that good stuff. I forget how many days it took those rubber duckies to get from Japan to the West Coast, but it wasn't. It was just like less than a week or something like that. It's been a long time since I've heard him talk about the rubber duckies. So, you know, Radioactive Reality, I've been waiting for a new episode to come out. It's been 2 weeks since Nibiru Magic has given us an episode, so I really don't know what's going on there. I was thinking earlier today of sending him a message, asking him how he's doing and if everything's going okay and when we can expect another episode. I hope he is doing well, and we'll leave that at that. So let's get on to the next bit of news. I'm going to go to ISIS here. Obama's ISIS war plan sparks warning from Syrian axis. The embattled Syrian regime and its closest allies, Russia and Iran, will oppose American military action in its territory against the Islamic State, the axis said on Thursday. The embattled Syrian regime and its closest allies, Russia and Iran, will oppose American military action in its territory against the Islamic State until the White House coordinates its U.S. actions with President Bashar Assad, the Axis said on Thursday. The group expressed its opposition to American force. Well, maybe I need to start drinking before I do the show. Which it called an aggressive and illegal intervention in the sovereign state, hours after President Barack Obama announced his intent to target Islamic State terrorists wherever they exist. That would be over there, not here. So why are they listening to our phone calls? Why are they flying drones over us? Why? Well, I mean, now ISIS is here because we let them up through the southern border, but they didn't used to be, and that's the whole point. But the White House made clear that the president's decision had already been made. Strikes will begin against targets in Syria at a time and place of his choosing, senior aides said. Well, of course. He did that same to the American citizens when he bombed them over there. Well, not Syria, but one of those countries over there. It's crazy. It's crazy. We've got a dictator. And I don't know what we're going to be able to do. I really don't. He's just doing as he wants. He's not getting congressional approval. You read down, it says Russia suggested on Thursday that without UN authorization, American action would be illegal. Of course it is. Of course it is. Almost the entire Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. Well, we're not in Iran yet. Maybe I'm ahead of myself. I'm sorry. We'll get there. We'll get there. Shortly after we bomb Syria, we'll be in Iran. So call that a prediction. I call it common sense. So basically, it's just the stammering going on again. As always, the link's down in the About tab if you want to read the nonsense, because that's what it is. It's pretty much all nonsense. Syria is not part of the global banking system. We're not going to stop bombing people until they join the global banking system. That's all it amounts to. And, oh yeah, we're going to steal their gold. But hey, we're giving them freedom. We're giving them freedom, I think. That's what they call that. Can you package freedom in a 500-pound bomb? we're not bombing them with explosives or nothing. I've been told that it's rainbows and unicorns. Rainbows, unicorns, and freedom. It just makes a really loud boom when it hits. Oh, what are we gonna do? So anyway, that brings me to another video that I have for you, and it's kind of a wake-up call. Some of you may remember stories like the Gulf of Tonkin and stuff like that. If you have as much of a tinfoil hat as what I do, and you read as much history and you understand as much, you'll realize that even Pearl Harbor was something that was designed, let happen, and it just the way our government pushes the public people to get public support, public opinions, to be able to go bomb other people. And that's what happened in the Gulf of Tonkin. And this is a video that's kind of asking if that's what's happening again. And by the way, that's what happened with 9/11. So anyway, here's a video that might shed some light. It's by the Big Picture RT. It might shed a little bit of light as to what is going on. Let me get some volumes changed here so we don't blow anybody's eardrums out. All right, here you go.
You need to know this. Last night, the president went on TV and said that while America can help in Iraq, the battle against ISIS will ultimately be won by Iraqis themselves. The key to Iraqis winning this battle, he said, was their forming a more democratic government that doesn't oppress the Sunnis. Take a look.
I don't think that unless a greater effort is made by the government to win popular support, that the war can be won out there. In the final analysis, it's their war. They're the ones who have to win it or lose it. We can help them. We can give them equipment. We can send our men out there as advisors, but they have to win it, the people of Vietnam against the communists.
Oops, sorry, wrong president, wrong war. That was President Kennedy making his case for American involvement in Vietnam in 1963. Now here's what President Obama said last night about his strategy for defeating ISIS in Iraq.
But this is not our fight alone. American power can make a decisive difference, but we cannot do for Iraqis what they must do for themselves. Nor can we take the place of Arab partners in securing their region. And that's why I've insisted that additional U.S. action depended upon Iraqis forming an inclusive government, which they have now done in recent days. So tonight, with a new Iraqi government in place, and following consultations with allies abroad and Congress at home, I can announce that America will lead a broad coalition to roll back this terrorist threat.
Sounds pretty similar to what JFK said back in 1963, right? Well, it should, because right now President Obama, in my opinion, is making the exact same mistake in Iraq as President Kennedy made in Vietnam. He says, and probably believes, that the fight against ISIS will be a limited one, with Iraqis doing most of the heavy lifting. But if history tells us anything, it's that wars have a way of escalating, and escalating fast. When President Kennedy sat down with Walter Cronkite in 1963 for that interview that I played a clip of earlier, there were only 16,000 American troops on the ground, and they were all military advisors. 1 year later, in 1964, there were 23,300 Americans in Vietnam, and they'd moved from a support and advisory role to full-scale boots-on-the-ground combat. By 1965, after Congress had passed the Gulf of Tonkin resolution and full-scale warfare really got going, there were almost 200,000 Americans fighting in Vietnam. Iraq is a different country than Vietnam, but it's easy to see how the fight against ISIS could turn into a new full-scale war. Right now, our military isn't leading combat missions on the ground in Iraq, but I guarantee you that as soon as ISIS shoots down one of our bombers or captures one of the 1,600 military advisors we've already sent to help the Iraqi army, hawks in Washington will scream for boots on the ground, just like they did in 1965. Ultimately, war is like Pandora's box. Once you open it up, everything is possible. Let's just hope President Obama realizes that and gets us out of Iraq again before it's too late. Joining me now for more on insight into this, the president's ISIS strategy is Edmund Gharib, an adjunct professor of Middle Eastern history at American University and author of the Historical Dictionary of Iraq. And great to have you here with us again, Dr. Gerbib. First of all, I'm curious your take on my take on what's happening right now.
Well, I think you have it right on in many ways. I think the problem is it's easy to start, become involved in a conflict. You think it's going to be limited, but at the same time, there are unknown events, and you don't know where things are going to go. You don't know what the consequences of certain events may lead you, and that's exactly what happened in Iraq in a way. In the past, I think that the danger is that we are witnessing this mission creep impact, and I think. As you correctly pointed out, if a U.S. airplane was shot down, if a pilot was captured, if some special forces were also captured on the ground, you are going to hear people screaming, we have to go after them, we have to go take action. We're already hearing that. In fact, some of the hawks in Washington are already calling for a very tough position. They say we cannot resolve this, we cannot deal with this problem unless we have boots on the ground, and otherwise this is not going to go anywhere. There may be some points that one can make to justify that, but I think overall what we have seen is that there is a problem with the foreign policy establishment in Washington, with the people who are often very quick to the draw. They want to shoot first and ask questions later, and at the same time, I don't think they have forgotten the consequences of such policies in the past. This policy in Iraq, for example, is to a large extent the consequence, the rise of Daesh, the rise of the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, is definitely a consequence, a result of the invasion of 2003 in Iraq, and the way the U.S. dealt, or the provisional authority at that time, the coalition provisional authority, established an Iraqi government which was based on sectarianism, on ethnic identities, instead of on the whole Iraqi national identity, and we are paying the price for it today, as are the Iraqis.
And today being the 13th anniversary of 9/11, in many ways, we are paying the price for I would say we are paying the price for a misguided response to 9/11. The world was with us. Downtown Tehran, Iran, they had a candlelight vigil on behalf of the United States. It seems to me that when the Taliban offered George Bush to arrest bin Laden and provide him to a third country, a neutral third country, for a trial, had Bush taken that offer and said, and by the way, let us bring in Interpol and clean up the other 3,000 or 4,000 guys who are with him, and let's have a trial, that would have been the end of it. Am I wrong in that analysis?
No, absolutely. I think what we have seen, unfortunately, is there are the wrong responses to the problems, and we have seen the mushrooming of Al-Qaeda. For example, in Iraq, we know that there was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Actually, there may have been a handful of fighters known as Ansar al-Islam who were, and actually they were in the areas under U.S. Control in northern Iraq. And they established a mini emirate in the Kurdish areas. These were Kurds who had fought in Afghanistan along with the Afghan Arabs, and Zarqawi was with them, the guy who later became the commander of Al-Qaeda. But in Iraq, there was no Al-Qaeda. But after the invasion, that's where Al-Qaeda emerged and became one of the most powerful groups. And later, again, it evolved to what is today the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant.
Right. So our misguided response to 9/11, both in Afghanistan and particularly in Iraq, led to ISIS, led to this, or ISIL led to this whole mess. You know, that Barack Obama didn't do that stuff, and it's always seemed to me that he's a much more thoughtful, much more deliberate, much more curious, much more engaged person than George W. Bush was. And it seems that he's holding off some really insane political pressure from people like Lindsey Graham and John McCain. Is this the politically inevitable middle ground that he's taking?
I think that's what he's doing. I think President Obama is facing a lot of pressure, domestic pressure. I think he's facing pressure from the progressive elements within the Democratic Party. I don't know how strong they are, but they are there. But at the same time, he's facing a great deal of pressure from the hawks, from the neoconservatives within the Republican Party and other elements within the foreign policy establishment, and also from the liberal interventionists. I think both of these groups are trying to put pressure on the president, and so far he has been able at least to try to hold them off. The question is, how long can he do that?
Yeah. Now, he also said that he's going to strike Syria. This is something that, by and large, we haven't done up to this point. We did it with Libya, we did it, in Iraq, we've done it with several countries in the region. What do you think the outcome of that would be, and is that a well-advised position?
This is I think, a very, very important point. And I mean, when the U.S. becomes involved in civil wars, when it appears to be taking sides in civil wars in the Middle East, that's going to be extremely dangerous, very explosive. It's going to create more violence, more turbulence. And we have seen examples of this. We've seen the intervention in Afghanistan that we were just talking about. We saw the intervention in Iraq, which led to the destruction of the political balance, that strategic balance that existed in the region, and in fact it strengthened Iran. Iran emerged as a powerful player. That's part of, again, why we see this radical positions adopted by some of the Sunnis in the region, because they were cornered, or they believed. Absolutely. And then the same thing we are seeing we saw in Libya. What happened in Libya is that there was this intervention supposedly to protect the people of Benghazi, and what do we see today? We see very violent civil war. The country is falling apart to pieces. We find militias of over 150,000 fighters, and the democracy that we heard a great deal about is not there. I mean, in fact, we saw what happened to the American ambassador there and to some of the other people. So this is the danger, is that people seem to forget about history, the people, yes. And that's the danger.
And there's a certain amount of hubris in thinking by inserting ourselves in someone else's civil war we can solve the problem.
Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure to have you with us, and an honor. Thank you.
All right, hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight. I believe you're going to hear Iran come up much more in the very near future. So let's get on through the news, because I'm already on overtime, and I don't get paid overtime for this. I don't get paid nothing for this. Oh, no. Okay, so if you want to read The Woman Eating Man's Face Off, the link is down in the About tab. I don't even know. I'll read the short story. How's that sound? Turns out The Walking Dead isn't just a TV series. Zombies actually stroll among us. At least that's what one suspect claims. The blood-sucking incident happened in Lake when Jessica Roca broke into a home on the coast, pushed a woman down the stairs, pulled her hair, I got an email, and bit her face. Roca told the victim she was playing the zombie game. Don't confuse that with the dating game. Anyway, authorities have no explanation for the reference other than the suspect was likely drunk and or high at the time of the attack. Really? They're going to blame bath salts once again. Now, if you recall, 2 years ago or so, there was a man down in Florida that literally ate the face off of a homeless dude, and they said it was bath salts. And when the toxicology reports came back, and by the way, good luck finding this information. It is out there, but when the toxicology results came back, he didn't have any type of drug in his system other than an SSRI. That's all he had in his system. And they found out through medical records and through people that he was staying with that he was coming down off of doctor-prescribed SSRIs. So watch when they blame things like on bath salts and all. Let me tell you something. Bath salts aren't as plentiful as they were. They're not available like they were. Basically because illegally the government scared all the vendors from selling the stuff. And I'm not saying to run out and do a bath salts or any type of drug or anything like that, but you know, we need to stop trying to scare people away from things that aren't causing issues, and I don't know, it's just crazy. We need to just stop trying to control everybody. Anyway, she's being held on a $77,500 bail and will be arraigned Monday on several charges, including assault. You think? Local police are still awaiting a comment from the Scarecrow community about their possible involvement in the zombie game. I agree with them. Can't believe they just wrote the last sentence. I don't know. Man, this is messed up. This is messed up. There's been so many incidences of cannibalism in this country. I mean, it's a form of cannibalism. It's a form of craziness. I don't know. Anyway, one more story, and then I have a song for you in closing that I think is absolutely wonderful. Kind of really describes my feelings on stuff. So anyway, at this point, it will not take much for society to collapse. This is another article from Preparing for XHTF. I really like their Facebook page, their website. And every day, by the way, if you're on their Facebook page, and the Watchman News Facebook page, I almost get it every day. They post free Kindle books that you can download. And I typically every day I get it, but you know, it doesn't hurt to join their Facebook group. They've always got really good articles on their website, and this would be one of them. Some experts claim that society will collapse because of inequality. Their thesis is that the well-to-do or the elitists will consume more and more, while the average citizen, the commoners as they are called, will experience the equivalent of a famine. Once the average person no longer has access to resources needed to sustain life, society will collapse. And this is true because usually all rioting, if it's not because of some football team or something that lost or whatever, it's because of food riots. That's, if you look at the other countries, that's really what starts the riots and the revolutions and stuff. I'm stumbling for the word here. Not just rising food costs, but also, you know, the amount of food declining. It will it causes food riots. It's crazy, and so you can expect that, I would say, probably this fall in this country. Anyway, those same experts also state in their thesis that the country and world is using up all of its natural resources at an alarming rate, and this will contribute to the collapse as well. Throughout the published works, reference is made to ancient civilizations such as Roman Empire and its ultimate collapse. Rome, according to some, collapsed because oh, there's a comma missing there. Forgive me. Because of the excesses, and I'm the one. I'm talking about commas. You should see me, right? I'm lucky to put all the words in there. Rome, according to some, collapsed because of its excesses and its governing policies. The policies being the decisions made by the rulers or emperors, as in later years. Like Obama, he's an emperor. He's not a dictator, really. He's not a king. I think we need to call him an emperor or a golfer, something. The emperor essentially made all the decisions for the empire. One person deciding the fate of millions will eventually lead to a disaster in any society. One ruler in particular decided that it was a good policy to pass out coins and food to keep the peasants well fed. A few coins for the average person to jingle in the markets gave them the illusion of prosperity, but those standing in line for their handouts were being set up for a fall because logic would tell you that the coins could not be passed out forever. A hungry peasant is a dangerous one in the minds of the emperors. So the answer was obvious. Feed everyone and the problem goes away. Farmers were put to work raising grains to make the breads to give away, and livestock was raised to ensure the markets were well stocked. So the coins given away could then be spent in the markets. However, the problem was that the farmers were not paid well, if at all, for their goods. Essentially, the Roman government was subsidizing the farmers to raise crops and livestock so the government could give it all away. The government was not selling the products, of course, so the subsidies were very little. and as it turned out, not near enough for the farmers to continue. A socialist society works well until you run out of money to give away and people can no longer produce goods to be given away because they cannot be compensated enough, if at all, for their efforts. Soon many farmers decided it made much more sense to stand in line to receive some coins and bread for themselves than to sweat all day for virtually nothing, raising foods to be given away. The free food, of course, did not last long because once the producers stopped producing, there's no more food to give away and no more markets in which to spend the coins that were given away. People, of course, developed a sense of time, and when the film stopped, all hell broke loose. Can you compare what happened thousands of years ago today? Yes, of course, you can, and similarities are frightening, almost prophetic. The country technically is broke. If an individual's debt far exceeded their income, they would be insolvent. Bankruptcy would soon follow. When an individual files for bankruptcy, many creditors are not being paid at all, or if paid, they're only compensated a few pennies on the dollar. Who are the creditors of the U.S. Treasury? Creditors are those that have claim on services of a second party, and in this case, the second party is the United States government. Many of the so-called creditors are American citizens because a record number depend on the government for their daily existence. And if the government becomes insolvent, the creditors will not even get pennies on the dollar. So all hell would break loose. If the government stopped sending out checks today, tens of millions of people may not know where their next meal is coming from. Now I'll stop there, and the article's in the About tab. There's only one more section, whatever you want to call it. You make the call. But I'll stop there because what I want to point out is the connection here and the chain here, the ladder as it goes up. Okay, so we've got us, the peasants. We're the peasants. I think that's pretty obvious. We've got us and we've got our government. Our government is failing. Our economy is failing. Now, it happened differently now than what happened back in the days that they were speaking of with the emperors and stuff, is because there's a global banking system. And the way this system is set up is that when we go down, then we're going to have the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and they're going to come in and they're going to quote-unquote save the day. So what's going to happen when they save the day? Well, they're going to say, well, it's a loan. But for collateral, we want your resources. Now, they've done this in so many other countries. You know, and no, the IMF themselves don't walk in and take everything over and take control of the country. They use the United Nations. Is it starting to make sense yet? We have to stop what's going on in this country. We have to. What left of it we have. So on that note, there's a song. I haven't gotten prior approval to play the song, so either YouTube's probably going to yell at me, or maybe the writer of the song yell at me, or maybe I'll just yell at myself because I get bored. But anyway, it's a little bit of a touching song for me anyway, and pay close attention to the lyrics. I'll play the song and then I'll close the show out. It's by I'm not quite sure how you'd pronounce his name, if it's Brittain, Duckworth. But anyway, it's a song called Doubts. I ran across this yesterday, and I really wished I would have ran across it in time for the show. I really do. Really good song. Pay attention to the words.
I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight, wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts yet. sky. 'Cause I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night, under these stars and stripes. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubt. But they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out. And I don't understand. So roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progressive man. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back out. And I have my doubt. So I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubt. And I have my doubt that we'll make it back up. Yes, I have my doubt. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. The things I think while I lie awake and contemplate at night are wearing me out.
I live my life worn out because I know if we don't change things, I know what's coming. That's what I have for you tonight. Sorry it was kind of a lame show tonight. Sorry last night's show was a lame night. I did everything I could last night to control my words because they didn't match my thoughts. I have a rough time on September 11th, and one of these days I'll be told to take the gloves off, and it'll probably be quite a different show than what I try and normally have. So on that, y'all have a great weekend. I have a weekend with an angel. And may God bless you, may He walk with you. Be one with your spirit as always. I love you all. Good night. Have a good weekend.